circles is your usual suspect. Hope you guys are having a very wonderful morning. It's a beautiful Monday morning, quite sunny out there. And I do hope that you'll have a great week because it's going to be a great week of footballing action from all spheres of football, both in the local leagues because the Italian Serie A continues to rage on, as well as action from the UEFA Champions League, UEFA Europa League, and the UEFA Conference League. But before we dive into all what's to come this week and some bit of more reaction from yesterday's action, allow me to test our, audience and do you know our routine for the usual suspects here on Football Tribe UG because it's a necessary evil that we have to do to take a few seconds to get it done because if we don't, we are oftentimes bound to be speaking without audio as we've done on one or two occasions. Basically, burnt our fingers with that, but. It does appear. I think we're good to go. I think we're good to go, really. So, anyways, plenty to speak about. But again, our biggest focus will be on Liverpool reaching the Premier League title. Of course, there was action in Italy that is worth noting because Inter Milan were beaten in the weekend. They were beaten. They did lose their game. That was against AC Roma. They did lose by a goal to nil. Then while Napoli won their game by 2-0. So that means that Napoli went on the summit of the Italian Serie A with 3 points ahead of Inter Milan with just 4 games left to play. So it's going to be like a couple of finals for played there in the Italian Serie A. But we'll kick things off in England, where Manchester United did share the spoils with AFC Bournemouth in a 1-1 draw. Antoine Semenyo scoring there for AFC Bournemouth, while Rasmus Højlund scored a 96-minute equalizer to ensure that Ruben Amorim's side did not suffer a third consecutive defeat following defeat to Newcastle and to Wolverhampton Wanderers. So that equalizer really meant much for both Ruben Amorim, but not so much maybe to the Manchester United team because it didn't change much on their position in regards to where they are on that Premier League log that is in as low as 15th. Yes, A says hello. Thank you for joining us. Much appreciated. Thank you for tuning to the broadcast. Guys, leave me a comment, like the broadcast. Let's engage here. Tell me where you're tuning in from. Tell me your name. Tell me what you'd like to hear. Yes, Gus. Is it Gags? Yes. Hello, Gags. Thank you for tuning in. I can see, I do not know how your name is pronounced. Gags from California. How is California? How are things there? Then we do have somebody from India, live from India. Unfortunately, I do not know how to pronounce your name because it's written in perhaps Hindu, maybe. That's good to hear, guys. So anyways, like I was saying, United there sharing the spoils in a 1-1 draw with AFC Bournemouth. But of course, all the news was at Anfield where Liverpool clinched their second Premier League title there when they won it after beating Tottenham Hotspur by 5-1. Then, of course, it's their 20th league title. So, guys, do not mix the two things. When I say it's their second Premier League title, it's because their first came in the 2019-2020 season, while this is their second. But overall, in terms of league, they have 20 league titles because the format or the naming of the league changed around the 91-92 season. So that's why I keep saying 2 Premier League titles, but 20 league titles, level with Manchester United as far as English football history is concerned. And for me, it makes them the biggest club in English football, not just by clinching that title. Gags asks, where are you from? I'm from Uganda, particularly in East Africa, a country called Uganda. That's in the capital, Kampala. I don't know if you've heard of Uganda in particular, Gags. I do know oftentimes our colleagues from the United States tend to look at Africa as one country, but it's a continent of 54 countries. just to point that out. But I'm particularly from East Africa. So, like I was saying, Liverpool with their 6 European titles or UEFA Champions League titles, as you may want to call them, and 20 league titles, for me, arguably makes them the biggest club in England. Of course, Manchester United wouldn't have wanted Liverpool to clinch that 20th league title to equate theirs. I knew that, Lolo. Nice to know that you're at least a bit informed about the continent and perhaps Uganda in particular. Maybe one day in your lifetime you'll have a trip to Uganda. Very beautiful country, by the way, with a good tropical climate. But like I was saying, so Liverpool, Arne Slot, congratulations. I was one of the people that did not really count him in as a potential title contender because he was coming in a new league, a new manager replacing Jurgen Klopp. And I did feel that he did have very big shoes to fill. Much love from California. Have a good night. Thank you so much, Guts. Yes, it's night that side, but for us, it's an early morning. In fact, it's 13 minutes past 10 a.m. So that's why you're watching this broadcast. But have a blessed night to you, sir. And thank you for the time you've given us here on the broadcast. Much appreciated. So I didn't think that Arne Slot really had the grit for the Premier League. While he did inherit a very good Liverpool squad, I did think that him being a new manager in England, he could lose his footing one or two times there, and it could cost them the league title. Not that I had predicted Arsenal to win the Premier League title, no, not United, but my prediction had been that Man City would reclaim their glory. I didn't think that they needed to change much, really, given what they had been able to show us in the previous 2 campaigns. So for me, that was a big factor. Yes, I was wrong about the potential Premier League champion. I got that one wrong because my prediction was Man City at the top, Arsenal in second, Liverpool third, and Manchester United perhaps fourth. Now, I couldn't have been more wrong about Manchester United because we all know how down the table they are. I couldn't have been more wrong about Man City because we all know after that Rodri injury in their 2-2 draw against Arsenal at the Etihad Stadium, an injury that has kept him pretty much out for the remainder of the season, really cost them. It sort of disrupted the way they knew best how to play with him. And that, of course, changed much. So they've not had the season that they would have hoped for. We all know that they crashed out of the UEFA Champions League at the playoff stages, and that's after the league format. We had those playoffs in which they sort of succumbed to, defeats against Real Madrid and were crashed out. But for everything they have to salvage in the competition, in the season, is that they have reached the finals of the FA Cup when they beat up against Nottingham Forest by 2-0 to advance to the finals of the FA Cup that will be played on 17 May 2025. So that gives them an opportunity to win a piece of silverware, because that's a competition that they also lost last season when they lost to Manchester United by 2-1 at the finals. Erik ten Hag guiding Manchester United to a piece of silverware. So Manchester City did not have the season that I had hoped they would have. People did question why I put Arsenal second. Again, I gave my reasons as to why I thought Arsenal could not lift the Premier League. Because first of all, the Premier League is a marathon in itself. As we've seen one too many times, they've lost 18 points from a winning position, more than any other team in the league. They have as many as 13 draws. Now you cannot draw 13 games and really go ahead to win the Premier League. 2, I think in the last 8 games, they have as many as 8 draws. Then they did beat up against Fulham, beat up against Chelsea, and beat up against Ipswich Town. So, but in there, they have draws against Brentford, against Everton, against Manchester United. Now, all those are drop points, including Crystal Palace, as we observed midway last week. So, but essentially, for me, my points were that they did not have a replacement for Bukayo Saka, especially a player as equally as good to replace him should he have gotten injured. And as we did see, he got injured. He got that hamstring injury that kept him out for nearly 3 months. I thought they did not have a direct replacement for Martin Odegaard. And again, Martin Odegaard was one of those that got injured and was kept out of action for 2 months. They struggled to create chances. Yes, they were winning games during that time, but they did struggle to create chances. And then in the aftermath of that very injury, I do not think Martin Odegaard has been as good a player as he was. Yes, he's had flashes of moments of brilliancy, but I do not think he's been as good as a player as he was prior to that injury. So that also cost them. As the season wore on, of course, we saw the injury to Gabriel Magalhaes in that 2-1 victory over Fulham. We saw a knee injury to Gabriel Jesus that kept him out of the season, as well as Kai Havertz that initially had ruled him out of the remainder of the season. He suffered that hamstring injury during Arsenal's Dubai training camp. But again, in part of my argument for predicting that Arsenal would clinch the Premier League title this season and would finish second for third consecutive season was that they did not buy a striker. Now, one would argue that Arsenal still scored goals, including scoring 5-1 against Man City, including beating Ipswich 4-0, and including in the UEFA Champions League scoring 7 goals against PSV at the round of 16. All that can be said, but I think there are many Arsenal fans out there that will agree with me that there are games in which they looked at and thought, oh my God, if we had a striker, maybe he could have been the difference in this game. Now, a lot has been said, a lot is sometimes said about Darwin Núñez. Of course, he takes so many chances to score and that kind of thing, but let's not forget that he comes on in moments and sometimes has won Liverpool, a game. When you look at teams like Newcastle, Alexander Isak is at 21 league goals. They've made quite the difference. They've been an inspiration to that team. When you look at Man City, we all know that Pep Guardiola does not really want to play with those traditional strikers, the typical number 9s. But we saw that at Barcelona. Of course, he had to put out Samuel Eto'o, and he went to Inter Milan. That was around 2010. So around 2009, 2010. I think 2009. Yes. So he does not play with that traditional striker, really. But when he came to Man City, he sort of tried to adapt. One, he did find Sergio Kun Aguero, played with him, and then he went on to sign Braut Erling Haaland, who we all know pound for pound is a typical number 9. So it really communicates to you that if you want to win the league title, you really need that striker. Now, tell me one Premier League team that has won the Premier League title in the last 20 years without having that outright striker. For those of you that do remember, Manchester United's last Premier League title that they won in 2013, in Sir Alex Ferguson's final season as Manchester United manager, they had signed Robin van Persie from Arsenal, typically for that, because the season before that, they had conceded the Premier League title to their rivals in Manchester City. Manchester City winning that at 2012 Premier League title on the final day when they beat up against when they beat up against QPR, and that's Queen's Park Rangers by 3-2. We all remember Peter Drury screaming out that Sergio Kun Aguero goal in the final minutes of the game. When on the other side, Manchester United had beaten up against, I think, Arsenal by 0-0. So clearly, over the course of the following seasons, you've seen that teams that have won league titles really had strikers. They really had strikers. So Man City had Aguero, they had Balotelli, they had Edin Dzeko in that team. So they win the league, and then the following season, Sir Alex Ferguson goes into the market typically to get a striker, and he got Arsenal's Robin van Persie, who had been, I think, the top scorer the previous season, and he brought him to Manchester United, and he scored all the goals that they needed, and they went on to be champions at the end of the season. So I thought Arsenal's lack of a striker would really cost them any possible piece of silverware as far as the Premier League title race was concerned. So I'm glad that I wasn't wrong. Of course, my prediction for my other predictions, you'll find them there, but the other predictions had to do everything with the relegation battle. I predicted that all the 3 teams that had been promoted would be the same teams that would be relegated, and I still gave my reasons. If you want an in-depth analysis of full views on that, please go to the channel and check that video out. And by the way, if you're new, kindly remember to subscribe, leave me a comment, leave me a like on this broadcast. It will be much appreciated. We've reached the 1,000 mark of subscribers. So thank you so much to our growing community. Thank you to our new subscribers. Thank you for those of you that mentioned our name in the spaces where we are not, you're really much appreciated. So, and I would want to send maybe some special greetings to a friend of mine, Brenda. She has really done much to promote this channel. So thank you so much. Anyways, like I was saying, it's congratulations to Liverpool. They really deserved the Premier League title. They dismissed Tottenham Hotspurs yesterday in pretty much a fashion that I had personally expected would be. My prediction had been a 4-1, but they made it even sweeter to make it 5-1. Destin Udogie scoring that own goal that made it 5-1. But among the goal scorers for Liverpool was Mo Salah, Cody Gakpo, Luis Diaz, and Alexis McAllister, while Dominic Solanke had scored the header that had opened the scoring in the tie. But after that, they were a no-show, really. They were a no-show. That's for Tottenham Hotspurs on the day. So, beautiful, beautiful action that we did witness yesterday as Liverpool were being, crowned champions. Of course, they weren't handed the Premier League title, but they are, we all know they are the champions. Congratulatory messages have been pouring in from all corners, all well wishers of Liverpool. And I once again say, congratulations, all Green in Sugar, Fifi Fiona Pinky, and all the Liverpool fans out there, prominent and not. Congratulations to your team. You really made it worthwhile for the season. In some way, the season did kind of feel like that of the 2015-2016 Premier League title. I think when Leicester went on to win it. I'm not saying in any form of comparison whatsoever that Liverpool have been like a Leicester City, but I must say that the competition Liverpool received in the rest to that of the Premier League title was really non-existent at best, especially in the latter stages of the competition. For that particular title, 2015-2016, you remember there was a bit of competition from Arsenal, from Tottenham Hotspurs. Arsenal go on to beat Leicester City by 2-1. That final goal scored by Danny Welbeck that sent the Emirates Stadium wild. But then dropped points in subsequent games when you thought they would further close the gap and go ahead of Leicester City. Tottenham Hotspurs, who are in the chasing pack, then squandered a 2-0 lead against Chelsea, and then they lost the title. And there it was, Claudio Ranieri winning the Premier League title with Leicester City, a team that had been fighting relegation. Seasons prior with, I think, was it Nigel Pearson, who had been brought in to save them from relegation and that kind of thing. So, Arne Slot becomes the fourth or fifth manager to win a Premier League title in his debut season. That's, of course, we did have Carlo Ancelotti 2009-2010 with Chelsea. We did have Jose Mario Felix Mourinho in 2004-2005 season. We did have Ranieri himself, 15-16 season. We did have Antonio Conte in the 2016-2017 Premier League season, which was Pep Guardiola's first season in England, among the managers that have won the Premier League title in their debut season. And then 2013-2014, when Manuel Pellegrini won the title with Man City. So those are some of the managers that have won the Premier League title in their debut seasons. So, of course, what does this mean? Yesterday I was following a forum conversation, I think, on somewhere online on YouTube, and guys were having this debate about of how huge it is a letdown that Mikel Arteta has not won them the league title, and yet Arne Slot just walked into the door and won the Premier League title. Now, I think that's easier an argument to make when you do not give it context, when you do not give it background, the background that it deserves. First of all, I'll compare. Historically, Liverpool are a bigger team than Arsenal. That's not to be doubted. That's not to be debated. We discussed how many league titles Liverpool have, as many as 20 now. Arsenal have as many as 13, but it is only 3 Premier League titles. You could say with Premier League titles, they are better than Liverpool, but overall, and then when it comes to European titles, Arsenal have never won it, while, yes, we are back. Yes, we are back. Apologies about that. We had a power disruption that antagonized our internet connection, but I think we are back. We are back. So anyway, thank you to all those that stuck with us. But like I was saying, that Liverpool are a bigger club in comparison to Arsenal, and that does not really change. That doesn't change anything. So, in context, I was speaking about the argument that Mikel Arteta has not won a league title, yet Arne Slot has won the league title in arguably his first season. Now, when you look at the kind of teams that both managers inherited, I do get the sense that Arne Slot inherited a much better team, a team that, by the way, last season were competing for the same Premier League title. Only that they fell short in the latter stages of the season. They did lead that Premier League table for quite some time, and they sort of fell off the wagon in the latter stages. But it was a team built to win. Jurgen Klopp had started the Liverpool rebuild, which saw in the coming of Dominic Szoboszlai, Ryan Gravenberch, Alexis McAllister, Cody Gakpo, Luis Diaz, Darwin Núñez. He was sort of, redeveloping his team from the team of the Sadio Manes, the Roberto Firmino's, the midfielder? Fabinho, yes, Fabinho, Jordan Henderson, Gini Wijnaldum, most of whom had left the club. So he was already rebuilding quite strongly. And then he still had the core, sort of the spine of the team, in Alisson, Desbeka, Virgil van Dijk, Ibrahim Konate, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Robertson. All these are players that were available, at least for Virgil van Dijk, Trent Alexander-Arnold, and Robertson when they were winning the Premier League in 2020, and then of course the UEFA Champions League in 2019. Mo Salah. So really, he had started rebuilding that team. Whereas when you go back to December 2019, when Mikel Arteta takes over at Arsenal, it was a very much older squad. So many players that were underperforming. He needed to do a squad overhaul, which took time largely because of resources. Arsenal bosses were not just going to throw £400 million at him and then say spend that and then have it your way and build a team that wins us the league today or tomorrow. In any case, he did communicate his plans that it was a 5-year plan or project, and then the project will go boom. Of course, in as early as the second full year, they had started competing, not for the league title, but at least they showed big signs of progress. And I think with all that in context, you cannot really blame him much. It is not to say that he's not fallen short, because over the last two seasons, indeed he fell short in one way or the other, because they could have easily won the league, and yet they didn't. But again, it has that historical context of not having the experience as a manager, because that's one thing to be remembered. Arsenal is his first job, and then the players themselves they do not have the experience of winning league titles and any other big titles, apart from some who were available when they were winning the FA Cup in 2020 in his first half season, and that kind of thing. So a lot of factors there to be considered or to ponder about when you want to have that kind of debate. Then this season in particular, I think injuries have really cost them. It's not now. People who make injuries are not an excuse, but I think they're a very huge factor, because let's look what players have you lost to injury. We all remember when they lost in 2021-2022 when they failed to qualify for the UEFA Champions League. They lost Tomiyasu and William Saliba in that game against Sporting Lisbon to injuries that left them out for the remainder of the season. That cost them qualification because the substitutes that they did have were not as good. Again, I was having this kind of conversation with an Arsenal fan yesterday, and I was telling them, look, when you want to build a title-winning squad, you need to have players. First of all, a very big squad, and your substitutes must be as good. Practically, that's how Man City have dominated the Premier League over the last 7 seasons or so, because they had big squads. They had very good players in there. And when you look at this Liverpool side, look at their front line. You have Diego Jota, Luis Diaz, Cody Gakpo, Mo Salah, Darwin Núñez. Those are 5 top players. when you look at their midfield, yes, their number 6 did not have very many options. But I mean, first of all, they managed to keep Ryan Gravenberch fit. Whenever they wanted to slot in, Wataru End was available. McAllister, very good player. Dominic Soboslai, very good player. Costa Timikas, very good squad player. Curtis Jones, very good squad player. I mean, Connor Bradley feeding in with the void whenever Alexander Trent-Arnold was absent, and that kind of thing. So really, they did not have so many injury disruptions, but even when they had the injury disruptions, they had good players to slot in. When you look at the goalkeeping situation, Alson Wamzesbeka, whenever he was out, Kalaha was there, very good, goalkeeper. So that kind of thing. So Arsenal lacked that in key positions, especially with Bukayo Saka, with Martin Odegaard, with the striker. So really, that's not to be discounted. So, but anyways, Arsenal will need to review their summer and do better going into next season, because the standards are going to be even higher. I do think Man City will be looking to bounce back, and Liverpool will want to try and defend it, and everything that comes with it. But anyways, that was it at that. Like I said, I didn't want us to go off this broadcast without seeing what happened in Italy, because the Italian City are there, like I said, following Napoli's victory there over Torino yesterday, beating Torino by 2-1. They moved to the summit of the Italian Serie A there after 34 games played, with 4 games left to play, with 3 points ahead of Inter Milan, who lost to AC Roma by 1-0 in this weekend. Como, we do speak about Como because they are under the charges of Francesco Sola Fabregas, who is also a shareholder in the same team. They're really doing well. Yes, they have a negative goal difference, but with 42 points and way above relegation, I think they've really, really done themselves proud. The question will be, can they build on to that success and be a better, much better team next season? Francesco Sola Fabregas has, because of what he's been able to do with Como, big clubs have started really monitoring him and looking at him. Could he do it, or he's only fit for marginal teams? Because when Thiago Motta did things well at Bologna last season, when he was put into the range of Juventus, he could not sort of be up to standards. Maybe the pressure at Juventus was quite much higher and different. Of course, we know the expectations of Bologna going into the season, into a season, are much different from that of an Italian giant like Juventus. So that's the bit of context. So Inter Milan remain second with 71 points, while Atlanta are third with 65 points. Speaking of Atlanta, their player in Ademola Lookman this morning is being linked with a potential move with Arsenal and Chelsea, as well as, I think, Tottenham Hotspur among the teams. No, sorry, Arsenal, Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea, and Manchester United. Yes, not Tottenham, among the teams being mentioned in the ranks that will be in the pursuit of Ademola Lookman, the Nigerian international. So he's a wanted man by those teams. So really, when it comes to UEFA Champions League places, Juventus are still in contention, but they are not. They're not there yet, because they're in 4th place with 62 points, while Bologna have 60 points with a game to spare. That's in 5th place. So that means if Bologna win their game tonight, then they could potentially leapfrog Juventus, because Bologna are in action tonight. That game does come at 7:30 p.m. when they travel to Udinese, while the other fixture is between Hellas Verona and Cagliari. Lazio will be in action against Parma, so to complete match day 34 there of the Italian Serie A. So in the weekend, of course, Real Madrid and Barcelona were not in action. That's as far as La Liga is concerned, but they did play that Copa del Rey final, in which Barcelona beat up against Real Madrid by 3-2. Very unsporting scenes there seen. Misbehavior by Antonio Rudiger, being given a red card, tried to throw something at the referee, and that kind of thing. And they do suspect he may get an even bigger ban than just a red card, because there were ugly scenes there. I think Lucas Vasquez and Jude Bellingham among the other players given red cards while they had already been off the pitch. So but Barcelona are the champions of the Copa del Rey. So in this week's action, again midweek, like I said, Inter Milan will be up against Barcelona. That's in the UEFA Champions League semi-finals. Then Arsenal will be up against PSG. We've done our preview. It's already up on the channel. Do check it out and watch it and let me know what your thoughts are. We also had another broadcast in which we spoke about PSG losing their unbeaten run in the French League One because they did lose to Nice by 3-1 in midweek. Yusuf Ndaishimwe among the goal scorers there for Nice and Morgan Sanson, yes, has scored a brace in that particular game, while Fabian Ruiz scored the only goal for PSG. Yet PSG did dominate affairs. Yes, Mr. Okuyo Amole, one of our ardent followers, is asking, is it a paradigm shift for the EFL to be won with games to spare? It's been always till the end. Like I said, the season in itself has felt a little like the season of 2015-2016 when Leicester City went on to win the league title. Of course, it's not something that we had seen in recent times, the title being won with 4 games left to spare, but that speaks to the falling off of Man City in contention, the falling off of Arsenal, too many games drawn. I do not think it's a paradigm shift because I think the competition next season will be much better than this season, than what we've seen this season, because I think both Man City and Arsenal will be looking to correct their mistakes or what cost them the Premier League title this season. And then you get the feeling that maybe Tottenham Hotspurs won't be as bad as they've been this season. Maybe Manchester United will be looking to improve things, not that they will be title contenders in any case. And then we all know, so that kind of thing. And for Arsenal in particular, the injuries they've suffered, I think it was a long time coming, given the amount of games most of their players have played for the last couple of seasons. Because when you look at players like Ben White, Bukayo Saka, Gabriel Martinelli, Martin Odegaard, for the last 3 seasons, they've been mainstays in that, starting 11 for Arsenal, and they played so many games. They've been the standout stars in that Arsenal team and that kind of thing. So that led to injuries, which then cost them in terms of competing for the league favorably. But I do not think it's really a paradigm shift. I do not think that we are going to see something like what PSG does in the French League One, because PSG won the league title in as early as April, with more than 6 games still left to play, and that kind of thing. Mr. Okuyu, you go on to say, it's been the usual with most UEFA leagues. Yes, of course, we do know that in different leagues, teams have been going on to win league titles with games left to spare. We've seen that with Bayern Munich over the years in the German Bundesliga. Never mind that Bayer Leverkusen stole the show last season when they went unbeaten and won the Bundesliga. We've seen that a couple of times with Juventus in years gone by, and then of course Inter Milan last season they won it with some games to spare. It didn't go down to the wire. Then Real Madrid winning La Liga last season. So, like I said, of course different leagues have different compete differently. But I'll say when you go in Spain, usually it's Real Madrid or Barcelona, and then this season Atletico Madrid has tried to put on quite a competition, but somewhere along the way they still lost it because of that gap, that historical gap kind of stays there. And when you go to Italy, it's still neck to neck, like I was speaking earlier on, because yes, Napoli are leading the table with 3 points, but there are 4 games left to play, and that's because Inter Milan lost to AS Roma over the weekend by 1-0, while Napoli beat up against Torino by 2-0. So I get the feeling that one is still going to go on, but you also kind of cannot ignore the fact that perhaps having won it last season, Inter Milan, maybe their headspace was more focused on the UEFA Champions League, which they lost out, I think, in the 2023 when they got beat by Man City by 1-0 in the. So I think Simone Inzaghi has his focus on the UEFA Champions League, in which in the semi-finals we all know they will be up against Barcelona. Speaking of Barcelona are in the semi-finals. Arsenal are in the semi-finals, and their women sides were in the semi-finals. Barcelona's women's side dismissed Chelsea 8-4 on aggregate, sorry, 8-2 on aggregate score. Yesterday they beat them so badly. I think it was 4-1 to advance to the finals. Arsenal, after a 2-1 loss in the first leg, they went and beat up against Lyon by 4-1. That's advanced to advance to their first final in 18 years. That's for the women's, football. But I just wanted to add that as a footnote. But so I get the feeling that Inter Milan were in that headspace where they are thinking so much about the UEFA Champions League semi-final as opposed to the domestic league. Not that they would want to win the Scudetto, but I think when they compare, when Simone Inzaghi sits down to say which one would I win with this team, I think it will be the UEFA Champions League, because they last won it back in 2010 under the charges of Jose Mario Felix Moreno, when they went on to beat Bayern Munich by 2-0 in the final. Diego Milito, one of the standout players in that team, that had the likes of Cesar, Samuel Eto'o, that had the likes of Michael, Wesley Schneider, Mario Balotelli was still in that squad, and the likes. So I do think the UEFA Champions League is really the priority. It's similar to what we've seen with Arsenal as the season wore on. While mathematically they were still in challenge for the Premier League title, I think they knew more than most that while it's mathematically still possible, their chances were, really, really very limited. And that's why they ended up putting all their focus on the UEFA Champions League. It's no surprise that they've won so many games during that spell. And yet in the UEFA Champions League, they continue to do favorably well, or to compete favorably well, including, beating the record champions home and away, and book a date with PSG, a PSG team that I do think would pose a very different challenge, for them. I'm not saying that they won't knock PSG out, and I'm not saying it's a good given that they will knock PSG out, but I do think that PSG offer them a very much different challenge. So thank you, Mr. Okuyo, for your feedback. Thank you for your questions. Much appreciated, and for the time that you do take to watch our content is much appreciated. So for me, that's what I feel when it regards to the competitions. As far as the Premier League is concerned, a lot needs to be done because so many teams have fallen off the wagon. In fact, I was reading Code Offside, and there was a story by a journalist, I think called Mark something, I forget his name. He was writing to say that in the Chelsea hierarchy, some people are starting to have concerns over Enzo Maresca. While he started the season pretty strongly, they kind of fell off the wagon as the season grew. And then the lack of form from players like Cole Palmer, who has not scored in the last 17 games for Chelsea, has come out to be a concern. So while that could be a grapevine, we can still take it with a grain of salt to say maybe there's some truth to it, because we all know that Tony Boy and his partners are not afraid to chop bodies when it comes to, letting go of managers. They came in when they bought the club, it was under the charges of Thomas Tuchel. With him, they brought in Frank Lampard as an interim. Turned out to be a very terrible decision. They brought in Graham Potter. It did not work out. He was sacked. When Thomas Tuchel leaves, they bring in Graham Potter. It doesn't work. Then when he's sacked, they bring in Frank Lampard as an interim, and it also didn't work. Then they brought on Mauricio Pochettino, and after one season, for me, which I thought that they were making some bit of progress because they finished fifth, they decided to let go of him, and is now the USA national team boss. And then they brought in the Italian in Enzo Maresca, who was with Leicester City last season and guided them to promotion this season. So, anyways, we wait to see how they will behave in the summer, what they will do in the market. But with Chelsea, I do not think Chelsea buys players for the manager. I think they buy players for the club. Pretty much sort of what Real Madrid does. They bring a manager, they give you the players that they want you to play with, and they want you to win. So that's Chelsea's model predominantly. It's not to say that the manager has totally zero input in who is brought in, but from you and I will agree that from what we've observed with Chelsea over the last 2 years, is that they go out, identify a good player, buy him, regardless of who the manager will be tomorrow and what his opinions are. Because look at all those players. Tell me one single player who you think that the manager has really had a direct hand in, apart from the player that they did sign from Leicester City, who has been really a no-show, Brisbane Hall, who has been really almost a no-show throughout the entire campaign. But anyways, it's 41 minutes into the broadcast. Allow me to let you guys go work. Allow me to let you guys go sleep. For those of you that were joining us from the United States of America and elsewhere, let me let you go rest. Those that for whom it's already working time, allow me to leave you to concentrate on your work. Otherwise, it's been nice having you here on the broadcast. Your time is always much appreciated. Robert Kesakos is your usual suspect. Have a blessed new. Let's engage, in the future. That's later today, perhaps then tomorrow, and all for the live broadcast that we'll be doing in the build-up to those UEFA Champions League games that will be coming our way, and much more from the world of sport. The transfers have started raging on. I'll be doing an episode on transfers strictly because there's a lot being said there with Manchester United's interest in Matthias Cunha, Liam Delap, and all the others. Dean Howson is a hot take. Antoine Semenyo is being mentioned in all corners. Victor Yokeres, Benjamin Sesko, Ekitike being linked with the move to Chelsea. Jonathan David, the striker there at Lille, with 16 goals already and about 2 or 4 assists there. So plenty to talk about, but we'll find time and discuss it all here on Football Tribe. Otherwise, have a blessed day for now, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.